within oh shit, there he is. I got him. I got his loot. Dude. Hey guys, me and Mark, we're doing a tracking tutorial, and for that purpose we built a basically a stacked corner tracker which tracks 1500 blocks northwest, 1000 on the second diamond block, and 500 on the third diamond block. And as you can see right now, no one's on the tracker, so I mean, maybe I should just warp out and come again at some other time. Oh, Mark, Itstherealmark just warped in, so he's within 1500. I'm going to narrow him to 1500 to 1000. He's within 1000 still. I'm going to go narrow him to 500. He's within 500 north, but 1000 west. Yeah, and I just checked to make sure. Now I'll screenshot that so I can keep it for later. And I'm going to calc off of the 500 north arm first. And north, as you can see here, when I move this way, the set is going down when I move north. And when I move south, it's going back towards positive when I'm going south. So I'm going to count the chords by saying 2486. Because the set is going down north, I'm going to minus with my narrow, which is 500, and then I'm going to add half of my narrow, which is 250, and that should be the mid coordinates on his set axis on the north side. So what I calculated was 2486 minus 500 plus half of my narrow, which gives me 2236 on set. So those are mid coordinates for the 500 area. And now I'm going to go back at my screenshot. Oh, he's still on it, so I don't have to look at my screenshot. He's west. My X is neck 499. So I'm going to take that. I can see west is going down as well because the negative value is adding. When I go east, the negative value is going towards positive, basically. So I'm going to take the basis coordinate of this arm, neg 499. In theory, you should actually take the bracketed coordinate, neg 500, so I'll just do that, honestly. So neg 500, I'm going to add 1000 because that was my narrow. Well, I'm going to say neg 500 minus 1000 because it was west, it was going down. And then I'm going to add half of my narrow, which is 250, which can kind of be confusing because, well, I narrowed him to 1000, but I'm saying my narrow is, half of my narrow is, you know, it's 250, but we narrowed 500 on the whole tracker, so half of the 500 narrow is actually 250. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to end up with the X mid coordinate, which will be neg 1250, set 2236. So those are my coordinates, and I narrowed to a 500 area. So now I'm going to go travel there because I count the chords, and I'll set up a temp tracker. I could also have narrowed him on a vanilla tracker, but I mean, if it's something good, people aren't bound to stay there for long, they'll warp out. Okay, so I'm at the chords now. We've got bracketed neg 1250, which were the chords I wrote down before, and we've got 2236. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tower up. This looks like a fine place to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's a 250 narrow because 25 times 10 is 250. And then I'm going to add the same amount of obsidian going out in this way. There's different ways you can do it. I just like it to do it this way, basically. So this is the platform for the vanilla that I'll show in just a second. But first I'll build the temp tracker. So the temp tracker, I usually like to do it like this. I know Mark does a checker. I don't always do that. As you can see right here, I haven't done it. But it's a very good idea to have a checker at the end of it, because sometimes you might end up thinking you narrowed someone to 25 and actually they warped out at that last little inch of a block on your temp tracker, which is, it's unfortunate because then you have to track twice or go to a raid that you didn't fully narrow, which is not fun, I can tell you that much. So right now I'm just doing the temp tracker. If you have a smaller narrow, you have to make smaller temp trackers as well. So what will happen once I actually end up using the temp tracker is the obsidian, cobble and stone blocks will actually end up disappearing while I'm tracking, which means I have to rebuild this all over again if I want to use this temp tracker or any other temp tracker. And that's also why when you're tracking someone and making a temp tracker, you usually want to have a vanilla tracker to just check if they're warping in or not. Because if you don't and they're not within, you have to rebuild your temp tracker, which I cannot recommend. Especially if the person isn't, like if the person is AFK, maybe you can get away with not setting up a vanilla, but if they aren't, you definitely should. So now I'm going to do as I said before, add 10 obsidian blocks out, and then the 11th block, so 10 obsidian out and then 11. So the 11th block is going to be gold, and this vanilla tracker will narrow basically 25 blocks extra compared to what the temp tracker narrows, which just gives you an extra buffer of space that you don't basically, if you narrowed a bit wrong, if they were moving around and you have that buffer of 25 blocks each direction, odds are it won't really matter that they were moving around. So now I finished the vanilla tracker. I'm tracking. Itstherealmark is still on it. I had a 250 narrow. I added an extra 25 on my buffer. So I'm tracking. He's on it. What I gotta do now is I actually temp tracked him here, so I know I gotta be tracking him. So I'll copy paste /track Itstherealmark. He's within. I'll copy paste, track, and if I had a checker, it would show me that he was still within, I'm pretty sure. So now I'm going to count the chords. 50 south of this C would be 2236 plus 50 minus about 13, which is half of the 25 narrow that we got, and that gives us coordinates of a 25 narrow, that's say 2273 on the Z, and on the X we're going 175 east. South and east are going up, by the way, on the coordinates. So we take neg 1250 plus 175, that's the last time we saw him, and minus 13 to find the mid area of the 25 by 25. And we end up with neg 1088 on the x using the calculations of neg 1250 plus 175 minus 13 equals neg 1088. So now I've got the coordinates and I've got the entire lineup. So now we're going to go to them and I'll be right back. Once I get to the coordinates, I'll show off how to, because he's been AFK for a while, I'll show how to narrow this guy to a 1x1 area, because it might be possible. So now I'm at the exact coordinates bracketed that I calculated before, neg 1088 and 2273. So what you can do here is you can actually narrow people to a 13x13, and we already did that. We see he's south and west, which means from here 13 blocks out he is he's within these two blocks. So what I can do with that intel is I can start narrowing him to 25. So I'm going to put a marker block there, and I'm going to go narrow his set first south to a 1x1. So you can also do this with obsidian and stone blocks, just like using the temp tracker, but I'll do it like this. So now he's north. Before on that block he was south, so I'm going to move this and I'll try again, see if I can get it. He's still north, so I gotta move a bit further towards my marker block. He's still north. Okay. Well, I think we almost have him, to be honest. Oh, okay. He should be, using deduction, he should be right here on the set, but I'll just check. He could have moved it around. Okay, now we see he's north and south on this exact block, which means we've got his set on exact, which is 2274. And now we just gotta get the X, and he was somewhere in this area, so I'm just going to go and see if I can track it. Now he's east, which means he's back here, which means we're pretty close. We are pretty close indeed. Yep, I got his exact X. I'll screenshot that as well. So neg 1092 actually bracketed, and 2274 is what I noted down. So now we have his exact coordinates. I think I'll tower up first, or if it's a sky base I'd usually be able to see it, but yeah, I think because I usually see it if it's a sky base, I think I'll just dig straight down on the bracketed coordinates. And I'll also note that these coordinates could be nether as well. He could be at a blaze spawner just AFKing and farming XP, so I mean that's a possibility as well. If I really wanted to check if he was within these 1x1 coordinates, I'd do this track, and he is. So I mean I'm not wrong, I did the math right. And yeah, let's just keep digging, because he should be in a 1x1 right here. I'll probably dig into him any second now, unless it's nether, because nether and overworld coordinates are equivalent on MC teams, which basically means if they are within oh shit, there he is. I got him. I got his loot, dude. Gotta hit him in chat with a good fight. Yeah, I got all his loot. Oh, he's mad. Look at him. I'll set HQ so he can come back and take his stuff with his bare hands. I dare him. Okay, yeah, I'll give you your stuff.